Welcome to the ARL GIFT series of instructional videos. In this video, we'll explain how course objects in the GIFT authoring tools relate to what a learner sees when taking a course, using the Excavator training course as an example. First, we will show you what a learner sees when taking the Excavator training course. Then, we will show the corresponding course objects in the course editor and explain how they relate to each other. The course begins with a series of welcome messages that are used to greet the learner and provide information about the course. These messages correspond to the information as text course objects in the course editor. The messages can be changed in the object's configuration menu. Next, we see that the course begins by asking the learner a series of questions. These questions are created using survey course objects. The questions ask for learner information that can be used as metadata or demographic information later in the course. Pre-course questions can be composed in the Survey Test Course Objects configuration menu. The remaining portion of the Excavator training course is provided as an adaptive course flow object in the editor. Remember that an adaptive course flow object can have four kinds of content: rules, examples, recall, and practice. For a review of the adaptive course flow object, please see our other video in our YouTube channel. Let's begin with the first section of slides that present the rules. We can see here, by showing the content files, that these slides have been created and linked to the course object. The learner will see the entire slideshow in linear order. As an author, you can use the initial rules phase in the adaptive course flow object to display non-interactive information to a learner. Each piece of content can be tagged with metadata that will allow you to adapt the learning process later in the course. For example, when editing the Swing Control PowerPoint, we can see that the content is tagged specifically to relate information about the swing course concept via means of IMI1, text, visual with text, and graphic attributes. Now, if we go back to the course object and select Edit for the Excavator Controls Animation object, we can see that it relates to all course concepts with the same attributes as before, but adding in the animation attribute. These attributes are used by the adaptive course flow object later to key any required materials for review to the learner's test results. You may include a closing message via the Show Message on Completion checkbox and text field as well. We will now navigate back to the learner's view of the Excavator training course. After the rules phase, the learner is given the examples phase of the course. The examples phase contains further information about the excavator with examples to reinforce learning. This corresponds again to the adaptive course flow object and the example phase below the rules phase in the configuration menu. Much like showing content in the rules phase above, the examples phase content contains appropriately tagged metadata and attributes for each piece of content. We can see here that this content has many of the same attributes, but adds videos to the content for the learner. Again, as the learner progresses through each piece of content, a closing message may be made available to them through the Show Message on Completion checkbox. We will next examine how the recall phase has been set up for the learner. This phase presents a test to the learner to check the learner's knowledge on the presented subjects thus far. Since this is a demonstration course, the correct answers are starred so you can experiment with correct and incorrect answers to observe how this will influence the learner's experience. We'll answer some questions correctly and some incorrectly to show you some of the course's adaptation and how it was defined in the adaptive course flow object. We can see here in the review that some questions were correct and some incorrect, and as a result, we have been presented with remedial course material on the course concepts with weaker test scores. Let's take a look in the course editor to see how this happened. In the course object configuration menu once again, you will be able to note that the entire question bank for the recall phase is defined here. Questions are created in writing mode, and answers, points, difficulty, and concepts are defined and tagged in scoring mode. These tags are used back in the Adaptive Course Flow object in the following configuration menu items: both the number of questions per category and difficulty, followed by the level of expertise you, as the course author, want to require of your learners in order to progress through the course. You can adjust the number and types of questions by editing the number value and edit the desired proficiency between novice, journeyman, and expert with the slider bars in this menu. Finally, throughout the Excavator course, the learner has been allowed the option of practicing content or applications prior to taking a formal assessment. This has been enabled by the author by checking the Add Practice Phase checkbox in the authoring menu. The author has also enabled the practice application to be available, allowing the learner to practice actual controls during this optional phase. Finally, we can see that after answering all questions correctly, the Excavator training course concludes successfully and with a closing message represented through the final Information as Text course object. We hope that this case study of the Excavator training course has been useful to you in explaining how unique and adaptive tutors can be built simply using the GIFT authoring tools. Thank you for your interest, and join the conversation at gifttutoring.org.